There's a specific kind of person you learn to avoid, not because they're cruel or manipulative, but because they can't hold water. You tell them something in confidence, something private, something that matters, and within days, sometimes hours, everyone knows. And when you confront them, they look genuinely confused. I only told one person, as if that makes it better, as if your secret wasn't a secret at all, just information waiting to be shared. If you've ever been betrayed by someone who couldn't keep their mouth shut, you know the sting. But here's what most people don't consider. The person who can't keep secrets isn't doing it to hurt you, at least not consciously. They're doing it because something inside them is burning, a pressure, an urgency, a need that feels more powerful than loyalty, more compelling than trust. And today, we're going deep into the psychology of people who can't keep secrets, not to excuse the behavior, but to understand it. Because the person who spills your secret isn't just careless. They're revealing something profound about their own inner world, something about emptiness, identity, and the desperate human need to matter. Let's start with something most people never think about. What is a secret, really? It's not just information. It's power. It's currency. It's proof that you're on the inside, that you're trusted, that you know something others don't. And for some people, that weight is intoxicating. Not because they're malicious, but because it fills something that's been empty for a long time. Think about it. When someone tells you a secret, they're saying, "I trust you with this." They're placing something fragile in your hands and believing you won't break it. For most people, that creates a sense of responsibility. But for others, it creates something different, an opportunity, because now they have something valuable, something that makes them interesting, something that gives them a reason to be noticed. This is where we need to talk about the psychology of attention. Because people who can't keep secrets are almost always people who are starving for attention, not in the loud, obvious way, but in the quiet, desperate way. They're the people who have spent most of their lives feeling invisible, irrelevant, like they don't have anything interesting to offer, and suddenly, they do. They have a secret, and secrets, when shared, make you the center of the conversation. Psychologists call this social currency theory. It's the idea that information, especially exclusive information, has value in social exchanges. When you know something others don't, you become temporarily important. People lean in, they listen, they want to know what you know. And for someone who rarely experiences that kind of attention, the temptation to share becomes almost irresistible. But here's what's happening beneath the surface. The person who can't keep secrets isn't just seeking attention, they're seeking validation, they're seeking proof that they matter. Because deep down, many of these people don't believe they're interesting enough, important enough, or valuable enough on their own. So they borrow value from other people's stories. They become the messenger, the insider, the one who knows things. And in that role, for just a moment, they feel significant. Now, let's go deeper. Where does this pattern begin? Like most things, it starts in childhood. And it doesn't start with betrayal, it starts with invisibility. Imagine a child who grows up in a family where they're constantly overlooked. Maybe they have siblings who are louder, more charismatic, more demanding of attention. Maybe their parents are distracted, busy, emotionally unavailable. Maybe the child learns early on that their thoughts, their feelings, their presence doesn't command interest unless they have something dramatic to share. So they start bringing home stories, gossip from school, news about other kids, secrets they overheard, and suddenly, people pay attention. Suddenly, the dinner table goes quiet, and everyone listens. The child learns a powerful lesson. Information equals attention. Secrets equal value. And if you want to matter, you need to have something to share. This pattern gets reinforced over years. The child becomes the teenager who always knows the latest drama, the adult who's always in the loop, the friend who somehow hears everything first. And on the surface, it looks like they're just social, well-connected, plugged in. But underneath, they're still that invisible child trying desperately to be seen. But there's another layer to this. People who can't keep secrets often have what psychologists call a weak sense of self. Their identity is fragile, undefined, built more on external validation than internal knowing. They don't have a strong center, so they fill the void with other people's stories, other people's drama, other people's secrets. Think about how this shows up. When you tell them something personal, something vulnerable, they don't sit with it quietly, they don't hold it as sacred. Instead, they immediately think about who they can tell, how they can frame it, what reaction it will get, because the secret isn't about you anymore, it's about them. It's about what sharing it will do for their image, their status, their momentary importance. This is where we need to distinguish between different types of secret spillers, because not everyone who shares secrets does it for the same reason. There's the anxious oversharer. This person spills secrets because they can't handle the weight of holding them. Secrets create internal pressure, and they lack the emotional regulation to manage it. They tell someone just to get it off their chest, not realizing that transferring the burden doesn't erase it, it multiplies it. Then there's the social connector. This person shares secrets because they see themselves as the glue of their social circle. They believe that sharing information keeps people connected, keeps relationships alive. They don't see it as betrayal. They see it as service. I thought you should know, but what they're really saying is, I need you to need me. And then there's the empty vessel. This is the person who has no stories of their own, no adventures, no drama, no depth. So they live vicariously through others. They collect secrets like souvenirs and share them like currency because it's the only way they know how to feel alive. All three types share something in common. They don't understand boundaries, not because they're stupid or cruel, but because they were never taught that other people's information isn't theirs to use. That trust is a container, not a pass-through. That holding space for someone else's vulnerability is an honor, not a burden. Now let's talk about what happens neurologically when someone hears a secret. Research shows that keeping a secret activates the prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for self-control and executive function. It requires effort. It requires inhibition. You have to actively suppress the urge to share. And for people with weak impulse control, that effort feels overwhelming. There's also something called the Zeigarnik effect, which suggests that unfinished tasks create cognitive tension. A secret, in a sense, is unfinished business. It's information that wants to be known, and that tension creates discomfort. For most people, the discomfort is manageable, but for others, it's like an itch they can't stop scratching. The relief of sharing feels more important than the promise to keep silent. But here's where it gets really interesting. Studies show that the act of sharing a secret triggers dopamine release, the same neurotransmitter involved in reward and pleasure. So when someone spills your secret, their brain is literally rewarding them for it. They feel good. They feel connected. They feel important. And that positive reinforcement makes the behavior more likely to happen again. This is why some people become serial secret spillers. It's not just a bad habit. It's an addiction. An addiction to the momentary high of being the one who knows, the one who tells, the one who gets the reaction. But let's pause here and talk about the cost. Because people who can't keep secrets don't just hurt others, they hurt themselves profoundly. Think about what happens over time. People stop trusting them. Friends become distant. Relationships become shallow. Because no one shares anything real anymore. No one tells them what actually matters. They're kept at arm's length, included in surface-level conversations but excluded from depth. And here's the tragedy. The person who can't keep secrets doesn't always understand why this is happening. They notice that people pull away, that conversations feel hollow, that they're not as close to anyone as they used to be. But they don't connect it to their behavior. They just feel more isolated, more invisible, which makes them even more desperate for attention, which makes them more likely to share the next secret they hear. it's a vicious cycle. There's also the issue of shame. Deep down, most people who spill secrets know it's wrong. They feel guilty afterward. They promise themselves they won't do it again. But the next time a secret lands in their lap, the urge is too strong. And every time they fail to keep their promise, the shame deepens. They start to see themselves as untrustworthy, as weak, as someone who can't control their own mouth. And that self-perception becomes another void they try to fill with more attention-seeking behavior. Now, let's shift perspective for a moment. Because it's easy to judge the person who can't keep secrets, to write them off as shallow, unreliable, not worth trusting. But what if we asked a different question? What if we asked, what would make someone so desperate for attention that they'd sacrifice trust to get it? And when we ask that question, the answers become heartbreaking. They were probably ignored as children. They probably learned that their inherent self wasn't enough to warrant interest. They probably spent years feeling like they didn't matter unless they had something to offer. And now, as adults, they're still operating from that wound, still believing that their value lies in what they know, not who they are. This doesn't excuse the behavior, but it explains it. An explanation creates space for compassion. Because the person who spills your secret isn't your enemy. They're just someone who never learned that they're enough without the drama. So, what does healing look like? How does someone who can't keep secrets break the pattern? The first step is awareness. And this is hard because most people who can't keep secrets don't see themselves clearly. They rationalize. I only told one person. It wasn't that big of a deal. They would have found out anyway. But real awareness means facing the truth. I have a problem with boundaries. I use other people's information to make myself feel important. I've hurt people I care about. The second step is understanding the root. Why do you need to share? What void are you trying to fill? For most people, it comes back to self-worth. They don't believe they're interesting or valuable on their own. So therapy, particularly work around identity and self-esteem, becomes essential. The goal is to build a sense of self that doesn't depend on external validation. The third step is practicing containment. This means learning to sit with the discomfort of holding a secret, learning to tolerate the tension without releasing it. It's like building a muscle. At first, it's hard. The urge to share feels overwhelming. But with practice, it gets easier. You learn that the discomfort passes, that you can hold space for someone else's trust without it consuming you. The fourth step is redefining connection. People who can't keep secrets often believe that sharing information creates intimacy, but real intimacy comes from presence, vulnerability, and reliability. It comes from being someone others can trust. So the work is about learning new ways to connect that don't involve trading secrets like currency. And finally, the fifth step is making amends. If you've broken trust, own it. Don't minimize it. Don't justify it. Just acknowledge the harm and commit to doing better. Not everyone will forgive you. Not everyone will give you another chance. But accountability is how you rebuild integrity, with others and with yourself. But here's the reality. Not everyone who can't keep secrets will change, because change requires admitting you have a problem. And admitting you have a problem requires humility. And humility is hard when your entire identity is built on being the person who knows things. So if you're someone who's been burned by a secret spiller, understand this. It's not about you. It's not because your secret wasn't important. It's because they're caught in a pattern they might not even understand. You can choose to forgive. You can choose to maintain the relationship at a surface level. But you don't have to keep trusting them with your truth. Boundaries aren't punishment. They're protection. And if you're someone who struggles to keep secrets, if you recognize yourself in this story, know this. You are enough. Without the gossip, without the drama, without needing to be the one who knows everything. Your value doesn't come from information. It comes from who you are. And the moment you believe that, truly believe it, the urge to share will lose its power. Because here's the truth. Secrets aren't meant to make you interesting. They're meant to honor trust. And trust is the foundation of every meaningful relationship. When you learn to hold secrets, you're not just protecting information. You're protecting connection. You're protecting the sacred space between two people who chose to be vulnerable with each other. And maybe that's what people who can't keep secrets are really searching for. Not attention, not validation, but the feeling of being part of something real, something trustworthy, something sacred. The irony is that the very thing they do to feel included, sharing secrets, is the thing that keeps them on the outside. Because true belonging doesn't come from knowing everyone's business. It comes from being someone others can trust with their heart. And that kind of trust? It's built in silence, in the things you don't say, in the secrets you keep. Not because you have to, but because you choose to. Because you understand that some things are more valuable than attention. Like loyalty, like integrity, like being someone who knows that the most powerful thing you can do with a secret isn't to share it. It's to keep it.